Thanks for Looker for having this wonderful forum to talk about data in advertising and other contexts. Been hearing so many amazing speakers, and thank you guys for choosing to be here. This is awesome. So I hope some of you made it to the keynote this morning where Ian touched upon the value that the Looker partnership has brought to our business. So I'm going to build on that and talk about how we've extended the Looker partnership to our clients and the value that can bring to your business. Here we go. All right, so my name is Polina. I lead customer success at 260, where my role mostly centers on digital transformation programs for large enterprise clients. In my past roles at Essence, I've worn multiple hats, from running global accounts for HP and Google to managing product delivery for T-Mobile. All these experiences have really given me kind of a 360 perspective on the types of challenges that marketers face in their day-to-day lives, and especially when it comes to data. So to really quickly give you an overview of what 260 is and does. So 260 is an ad tech company incubated within a marketing agency called Essence. We're part of WPP Group. And for those of you who don't know what the acronym means, marketers are big fans of acronyms. It's a horrible habit. WPP is one of the world's biggest advertising groups. So 1 in 3 ads that you see day to day is either bought, placed, or created by WPP. So the scale is quite vast. At 260, our mission is to unleash the power of marketers through automation, better governance, and data management. And we do this at scale. So our products manage in the region of $3.5 billion worth of media, and we're processing around 3 petabytes of data. So the scale is vast. Even though we have access to considerable resources, and we've seen thousands of use cases and worked with lots and lots of customers, I can tell you that managing data in advertising is really hard. It remains a massive challenge for us. But I'm also to tell you, and this is the theme of my talk today, that the antidote to this complexity is collaboration. It's a really not so secret sauce. It's very simple. And this is what I'm going to talk to you guys about today. So to help me understand who we have in the audience, hands up, those of you guys who knows what this is. Okay, a few hands. All right, hands up, those of you guys who work in a marketing role in-house or at an agency. Some of the same hands. Okay. Wonderful. So last question, promise. I'm not going to pull you into infinity. Hands up if you've experienced an annoying ad. Okay, 70% of the room. Great. So for those of you guys not familiar with this beautiful image here, this is a Lumascape that displays 8,000 companies of different sizes that operate in the marketing tech space. It's horrible. It's just, there's way too many of them. And if you think about it, the space is so crowded because nobody has quite figured out the right solution. Otherwise, there would be much less and the options would be much clearer. And if you think of a typical marketer, they're increasingly tasked with choosing the best technology for their business from this crazy palette. I mean, it's an impossible ask. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, and yet I work with clients constantly that ask our advice on how to make a choice from this. And honestly, I still don't know. And the reason is because the state of data in advertising is in a pretty tough spot. Some of the folks touched upon this in the keynote this morning, but advertising agencies have a pretty bad rep, especially in the recent years. There's been a lot of problems with customer data treatment, corporate governance, bad media buying practices. Agencies are just not trusted in general, and it creates a situation of kind of where the bad drives out the good in the marketplace. Secondly, most marketers aren't analysts. Their background is not analytical. Their background can be social sciences, business, economics. Some people come from a creative background. So asking marketers to also be analysts on top of the other 10 things that they're doing is a really tall order. So when we deploy data products to our clients, we know that they're not going to be a priority for them. So managing around that is also something that we've learned to do over time. The next kind of big force that we're dealing with is the fact that the data standards in marketing and advertising are pretty mature. So, and especially when it comes to digital platforms. So if you think about a video impression, right? All of you guys, I'm sure, watch videos online, one form or another. So a video impression is defined completely differently on Facebook versus YouTube versus Snapchat versus Vine. That's crazy, and that definition changes on a daily basis. So if you're trying to standardize your data and reporting, it becomes an impossible task of always playing catch up with the latest platform trend or definition. And the last kind of umbrella to unite all of this is constant change. Advertising is a dynamic industry, and we're always learning the new thing. What it also means is that people get pretty fatigued. They get into change fatigue, and they don't want to deal with a new thing every single day. So we realized all of this about 3 years ago. These trends are not new, but they're worth thinking about for the story that I will tell you. So in 2016, as the kind of automation arm of the agency, our biggest challenge was delivering customized media reporting at scale to our clients. So customized at scale has a built-in conflict inside because something customized is not a mass product. We knew that. We also knew that we really had to come up with something. So we looked at the resources we had internally, the experience we had as an agency, and the products that we've already built. So this product is called Olive. This is not an ad for Olive. You just need to know the context before I move on. And it was a campaign stewardship system. Campaign stewardship, for those of you guys that don't work in the marketing field, is a blend of a project management software. So think of a Trello, Asana, Smartsheet, whatever you guys would use. Plus, it has kind of the billing and financial aspect to it, because agencies manage other people's money, and they have to go through lots of steps to launch a campaign. So, as you can imagine, this campaign stewardship system was generating lots of data, and it's been generating that data for years. It was storing all the decision-making history. It was storing all the client briefs that we've ever gotten, all the media objectives. It was storing all the decisions that the teams were making. So incredibly valuable data, not just for the agency, but also for the clients, that if used and displayed the right way, could just prove a total goldmine. So we decided to build a solution ourselves, because we had this thing, the thing was working, so we said, okay, great, we'll build another thing, and it'll also work. It didn't. We had to compromise. We realized that customization at scale had this, as I said, this conflict built in. So the compromise was, all right, let's find lowest common denominator metrics, and let's build the reporting products around those, and let's sell it to clients, and they will get, so imagine you're a marketer, and you hire an agency, and you get a report that has spent impressions and clicks. And if you're a brand marketer, you also get one brand metric, and if you're a performance marketer, you get a conversion metric. That's not a lot. That's honestly, that's pretty much nothing. So, you know, this really didn't fly with our customers. And the only reason we went to market with something like this was because we really believed that it just wasn't possible. It was an impossible challenge to solve. And we would just have to convince customers that this is the best that we can do and they can get. Obviously, this didn't make any business sense. So we started looking outside for a partner that we could bring on board to help us solve this customization at scale challenge. And we came across Looker. And the reason I think the Looker kind of value prop was so appealing to us at the time was two things. One was obviously their culture, and Frank talked about this today. It was very similar to ours. So we found these guys really easy to work with, and honestly, in the partnership, working with the right people is kind of a number one thing, if not the only thing. And secondly, they had this idea of democratizing data modeling, which was actually exactly what we needed. We had a lot of people in the agency who were quite data literate, but not full-on analysts. And we didn't have that many developers that could support the same amount of users that we had to support. So when we started working with Looker, we basically built a reporting platform based on Looker. We called it All of Data Lab. We didn't call it a reporting portal because we really wanted it to be a space where people go and explore their data and play with it and learn from it and use it in their day-to-day lives. We found that people were starting to write their own queries, people who were not analysts, media planners, strategists, content writers. It was so easy. And the amount of time that our dev team was spending on maintaining issues and writing code was going down. So it was a no-brainer. It was working. And obviously, I wouldn't be here if it failed. So, you kind of know the story has a happy ending. The most important thing that this gave us was configurable data models for individual clients. Our biggest learning from our first flop was the fact that clients didn't want the same reporting. A guy sitting at HP managing personal computers doesn't want to see the same types of metrics that a Peloton media manager wants to see. They just care about different stuff. So we needed to show the most relevant metrics to them. So I guess this is what you guys are here for. Wanted to show you our architecture. This is a very abstracted version of it. This is what it looks like today. We knew that the second partner we really needed was a good cloud. We decided to go with Google. It was really a no-brainer for us because Essence has been a partner of Google for the past 12 years. We run on G Suite. We had envisioned all types of synergies and time savings from things like authentication. Our analysts love writing things in BigQuery, so it was a really easy choice for us. And actually, the resultant architecture ended up working really well. So what we have going on here is a kind of four-step process. So we're landing data in raw format from a variety of data sources. Here are just some examples. It's not all of them. Some clients will also have first-party data coming in, second-party data, all types of stuff. It all lands in Google Cloud Storage. We don't do any data modeling at that point. Then we build kind of our base and persisted views in BigQuery, and then all the data modeling happens in Looker. And what we do in Looker is we kind of have our foundational agency model, which allows Essence or other agencies that use this product to basically give their point of view on what each metric and each dimension is supposed to mean. And then we layer on top kind of the individual advertiser models. So we end up with this kind of advertiser data ponds inside the bigger data lake. So let's say if NBC Universal wanted to define their video views one way, that's fine. It wouldn't conflict with how Peloton wanted to do it. So once we built all of this out, we effectively went through kind of a 1.5 year period of dogfooding this to our internal teams. And we didn't just want to test it with the kind of marketing and media teams. We also wanted to test it with our HR, finance, operations teams. anyone who could only not only care about the advertising data, but also operational data. And what we found was that our users were really exploring data in quite unexpected ways. So our operations team started looking at operational efficiencies. They were checking if people were, utilizing their time the best possible way. So we plugged in our timesheeting data into the data lake. Then we had our finance team looking at client billing. It's a huge problem for agencies. Being good at client billing is kind of 50% of the bread and butter. So it proved really great for the internal use cases that we were seeing. So in 2018, we took the decision to start offering all of Data Lab to our actual customers. And the way we decided to do it was not just giving them the technology and kind of letting them be, but it was really a digital transformation-driven approach where we partnered with the customers, we understood their business objectives, and a really important thing that we found, and something that was also really effective, was really understanding their workflows. Because if you're trying to deploy a product that you want the organization to use in their daily lives, weekly routines, you need to know what those daily lives look like. And if you don't nail that on the head, your product will become just another piece of SaaS that never gets used and just goes into that graveyard where sad SaaS products go to die. So we kind of developed this co-creation approach when it came to training, when it came to crowdsourcing dashboards, and when it came to actually making sure that we were putting the right architecture in place. So what I'm going to share with you guys now is, given all of this, given the journey we've gone through to choose Looker, I'm going to share with you 2 case studies of how we've deployed it to our customers, and then some of the lessons we'll learn from that. All right, so our first customer to experience this was a small company that kind of calls itself the Netflix of sports. We chose them as kind of our guinea pig customer. Of course, we didn't tell them at the time, but they were a great fit. They had quite a small team. It was a young product. The marketing team was co-located with our deployment team in London. So it was a really great fit. They were kind of up to shake things up, and were really open to change. So the overall agency team at the time was 30 people. The client team was 10 people. And what we did was what by now looks quite simple. So we basically added a first-party data feed, because if you can imagine this Netflix for sport company, it was really important for them to understand how their audiences were viewing their content as a result of seeing an ad, right? So if you target someone with a football ad, do they go and watch a football match, or do they go and watch tennis? That can tell you a lot about your customer funnel and how they behave on the platform versus how they behave with advertising. So we've added that first-party data feed, and we created 2 new explorers to kind of deep dive into that data. And the definition of those explorers were really done in collaboration with the client team. So the way we got them to think about it is not by asking them, what metrics do you need, right? Because if you ask someone what metrics do you need, they don't really know what to answer, especially if they're not an analyst. We ask them, what are the types of problems you're solving? Who do you share this data with? Who are your internal customers? And how will having this data make your life better? Once they answered that, we could deduce what metrics they needed. It was pretty easy if you get that context right. We did something like 10 hours of training with them. As I said, it was quite a small team. So it netted out at about 1 hour per person, which feels quite heavy-handed now, but it was great then because we learned a lot. We've co-created 5 dashboards with these guys. And by co-created, I mean we literally sat down with them and drew them on a piece of paper and tested if they're doing what they need to be doing. And lastly, we managed to work with one of their executives to create a dashboard just for them, to give them that very kind of bird's eye view of the media. And that really kind of hooked the product into the team and made sure that everyone was using it and using it as a single source of truth. So in terms of the results, over the deployment period, we've had those guys spend 105 days exploring their data, which is a huge amount of time if you think about it. We've seen a 10% increase in ROI coming out from time savings across both the client and the agency team. And in terms of adoption of reporting as a concept, that's gone up 31% as well compared to the manual alternative they had before. So given the learnings we had there, in 2019, we were tasked with onboarding a massive enterprise telco client in the US. And these guys, I mean, the whole endeavor was about 10x the case study that I've just showed you. So for these guys, it was really important to have social. Our social stack at the time was quite limited. So we've added 5 new platforms, 350 new metrics, 5 new explores. We've dedicated around 20 hours of training to these guys, co-created 18 dashboards. And the last interesting thing that we did, because this was an enterprise and because we were not the only kind of agency in the mix and not the only reporting solution in the mix, we've also built a direct export into Microsoft Azure that was coming out from Looker. It took us probably half an hour to build it, and it's saving the team something like 20 hours a week from providing those data dumps that they were asking the agency to do before. So that was an enormous time saving and really easy for us to do and a massive value add for the client. So in terms of the results, again, really, really, really positive, and we feel that we've really gained from having the first smaller clients and kind of observing them under a microscope. The reporting uptake went up 24%. The guys spent 127 days in the platform playing with their data and finding new ways to use it, and the ROI has gone up almost 20%. So I know this talk was branded advertising, but the lessons I wanted to share with you guys, they're just human lessons on what we think really made this work. So first of all, because we're in the SaaS business, you have to deal with the perception of complexity. Your customers, if you remember the Lumascape I showed you, that's just not an easy thing to digest and understand and deal with. So they'll be starting out the conversation with you from like, whoa, this is just too hard for me, this is going over my head. There's not much you can do about it, but you can find champions in those teams and let them do the selling for you. They will find the right language, they will find the right use cases, they will talk to their colleagues in the way that you probably can't talk to them. You need to find those people, nurture them, build them up as much as you can. The next thing that has always been our philosophy, and I think our experience has reinforced it, is don't black box your technology. If your customers already feel that it's complex, if they're already short for time, there's no point hiding what you're doing, right? If you show them exactly what you're trying to achieve, if you get their buy-in to the fact that something is challenging and complex, and ask them to help you and ask them to provide a point of view, they'll be so much more bought into the end product. They will want to share responsibility for the creation. They will want to partake in what you're doing. And again, they will be your greatest beta testers. They will give you so much feedback. It's really valuable. And lastly, yes, it says marketing teams, but I believe collaboration is really the lifeblood of all teams, and especially today when so many of us are spending so much time in our phones and computers alone. It's really when we collaborate that things start to become really special. And data products should facilitate it. If you're building a data product, it could become that single source of truth to unite people around and make collaboration easier. So if you're able to do that, you've hit jackpot. So I'm going to leave you guys with a quote that is not mine, but I really agree with the sentiment. Coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, working together is success.